vision and pay me. It's never this way. Me indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity. This your opportunity, your opportunity.
Imagine signing, I don't know, a $5 million contract to move your entire company's on-premise footprint into the cloud.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge commitment.
Right. Like you spend 18 agonizing months migrating data, configuring workflows, training all your staff.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Exactly. And finally, you flip the switch, the executives are cheering, the new dashboards look absolutely flawless, and you feel like, you finally dragged your operations into the modern era.
The champagne is flowing.
Yeah, the champagne is flowing. But then within 24 hours, the celebration just abruptly dies.
Yeah. Reality hits.
Right. Walmart threatens to drop you as a supplier because your shipping data just, well, it flatlines.
Oh, wow. That's the nightmare scenario.
It is. Target starts issuing thousands of dollars in chargebacks for, like, missing ASNs. Your whole warehouse floor is just totally paralyzed.
Absolutely gridlocked.
Exactly. So, welcome to EDI on the Street, where we discuss all things EDI and supply chain. We are coming to you straight from the team here at GraceBlood.
That's right. Glad to be here.
And today, we're pulling apart some internal GraceBlood deployment scripts. So the mission for this session is, it's highly specific.
We're getting right into the weeds today.
You really are. We are going to dissect the architectural mechanics of why moving to NetSuite or Acumatica or Dynamics 365 almost always detonates your existing EDI infrastructure.
Detonates is the perfect word for it, honestly.
Right. And we want to show you how to prevent your digital transformation from becoming like a total supply chain disaster.
Which happens way too often. I mean, it is the single most common failure point we see in modern ERP deployments.
Really? The single most common?
Oh, absolutely. IT leadership, they focus so heavily on the destination, the shiny new cloud architecture.
Right, the new dashboards.
Exactly. And they fail to audit the legacy architecture they are actually abandoning. We were talking about a fundamental shift in data topology here.
Break that down for me. What do you mean by data topology in this context?
Well, when a CIO looks at their legacy environment, they often view EDI and the ERP as like two completely distinct applications.
Just two systems that happen to talk to each other?
Exactly. But structurally, in the old on-premise world, they weren't just talking. They were structurally fused together in ways that modern cloud environments explicitly prohibit.
Okay, let's unpack this fusion, because I feel like that is where all the landmines are buried.
Oh, they are absolutely buried there.
Because I'm looking at these deployment post-mortems from the GraceBlood scripts, and the recurring nightmare is always like some undocumented ghost process.
Yes. The ghost processes, they haunt every migration.
Right. So the classic example here, a migration team is mapping out data flows for a new NetSuite environment, and they just stumble across this custom VB script.
Ah, yes. Running on some dusty Windows server from like 2011.
Exactly. A dusty server from 2011. No one knows what it does. The guy who wrote it retired 8 years ago.
And if you turn it off, the 3PL rejects every outbound order.
Instantly. Why does that happen?
What's fascinating here is that 2011 script is the perfect representation of legacy tight coupling.
Tight coupling, okay.
Right. So in a traditional on-premise setup, your older versions of S&P or Oracle or Infor, they sat on physical hardware in your own data center.
Right, like physically in a room down the hall.
Exactly, completely shielded by your corporate firewall. And because everything was considered, quote-unquote, safe inside that perimeter...
Nobody bothered with security protocols between the systems.
Exactly. IT teams didn't bother with standardized communication layers or strict governance. They took the path of least resistance.
Which means what, exactly, for the data?
That meant your legacy EDI translator was likely executing direct SQL read and write operations straight into the ERP's core database tables.
Wow. So they were just bypassing the application layer entirely.
Completely bypassing it.
That's wild. So the EDI software wasn't like asking the ERP for data. It was reaching directly into the database schema.
Reaching right in, grabbing an inventory count, writing a new sales order row directly into the tables.
Just raw database injection.
Raw injection. Like cron jobs running every 15 minutes, flat files being dropped into shared network folders.
Oh man, the shared folders.
Right. FTP scripts moving CSVs from a local C drive to a mapped network drive. It was an entire environment built on implicit trust.
And shared local resources. I mean, I look at that architecture and it really reminds me of getting an old Century home.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like you buy the property and you think, I'm just going to drop in a new induction stove and a smart fridge. It's going to be great.
Should be easy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the second you rip open the drywall to upgrade the electrical panel, you just freeze.
Because you see what's actually in there.
Yeah. The plumbing is held together by duct tape. The wiring is this completely undocumented rat's nest from like 3 different renovations.
Terrifying.
And you realize the entire second floor is being supported by a single load-bearing 2x4 that some contractor wedged in there back in 1995.
And you just can't install the smart fridge anymore.
Right, you have to rebuild the entire foundation first.
And moving to a multi-tenant cloud ERP forces you to rip open that drywall.
And expose all that bad wiring.
Exactly. The reason the entire EDI flow breaks on day 1 of the cloud migration is that vendors like Acumatica or Dynamics 365, they fundamentally lock you out of the basement.
They don't let you see the foundation anymore.
Right. They operate on a shared infrastructure model. So for obvious security, stability, and, compliance reasons,
They can't let you touch the database.
they will never, under any circumstances, allow an external third-party application to directly query or write to their back-end SQL databases.
That makes total sense.
That direct access is permanently revoked.
Which means all of that hard-coded, undocumented logic residing in that 2011 script just, it vaporizes. If the direct database connection is severed, can't the IT team just point the old EDI translator at the new cloud endpoints? Like, why does the loss of that direct access cause the specific business logic to fail?
Because in those legacy environments, the EDI software wasn't just doing format translation.
What was it doing?
It was acting as a shadow ERP.
A shadow ERP. Wow.
Yeah, think about the life cycle of an 850, right? A standard purchase order.
Okay, an 850.
When Walmart sends a purchase order, it rarely contains every single piece of data your system needs to actually fulfill it.
Right, they just send their specific codes and quantities.
Exactly. In the legacy setup, that direct database connection allowed the EDI software to instantly cross-reference internal tables.
Oh, I see.
It might check a local hard drive for a spreadsheet containing some mystery routing guide.
Oh, geez.
Right. Or it might run a custom SQL query to figure out a specific retailer's weird pallet configuration. Or inject a default vendor number that Walmart just left blank.
So the translation layer and the business logic layer were hopelessly tangled together.
Completely tangled. The script wasn't just moving data, it was transforming, enriching, and applying conditional logic on the fly.
And doing all of that entirely outside the visibility of the actual ERP application.
Precisely. So when you sever that direct database connection, you don't just lose the conduit, you lose 15 years of institutional memory.
All those operational band-aids.
Right, all the band-aids that were hard-coded into those specific SQL queries.
And here is the brutal reality for anyone listening who is running these operations. Walmart does not care that you're going through a software migration.
No, they absolutely do not.
Target does not care. Your external partners operate on automated, highly rigid SLA windows.
Time is money for them.
Exactly. The business expectations do not pause just because your IT department is restructuring its data topology.
Retailers still demand their functional acknowledgments within hours.
And the warehouse still needs ASNs to know what trucks to unload.
Exactly. If you miss a shipping window because your new NetSuite environment didn't know how to parse a specific 3PL's proprietary carrier code,
A code that your 2011 script used to magically translate in the background.
you are the one absorbing the massive chargebacks. The technical failure immediately becomes a financial penalty.
Which brings us to the juncture where things get really, really dangerous.
This is the critical moment.
Right. The IT team realizes the old on-prem connections are dead. They look at the new architecture of their cloud ERP, and they see this beautiful, fully documented REST API.
The shiny new toy.
Exactly. And they make a massive assumption. They think, well, we don't need to rebuild these messy EDI maps. We're in the cloud now. We'll just build modern API connections.
It is the most persistent, pervasive myth in supply chain architecture today.
It really is.
The narrative that APIs are going to completely replace EDI. You hear it at, like, every tech conference. EDI is a dinosaur. APIs are the gold standard.
Well, I want to aggressively challenge that narrative right now.
Let's do it.
Because on paper, APIs are the gold standards.
They are very elegant.
They are. They're synchronous. They're real-time. They handle complex nested JSON payloads beautifully.
Absolutely.
So if I am looking at my cloud environment and I have this robust, secure NetSuite API, why won't my external trading partners just use it?
That's a fair question.
Right. Like, why doesn't a massive logistics provider Just hit my API endpoint directly to drop off the order. Why are we still forcing data into a format that was invented in the 1970s?
If you look at this purely from an internal systems perspective, your logic is flawless.
Okay, internally it works.
Yes. Inside your own four walls or within your own cloud perimeter, the API narrative is absolutely true.
Like my modern WMS talking to the ERP.
Exactly. Your WMS uses APIs. Your Shopify storefront uses APIs. It is clean. It's instantaneous. But the moment you cross the perimeter into the external trading ecosystem, the architecture changes completely.
Why, though?
Yeah.
If it works internally, why does the external ecosystem just reject it?
2 words. Scale and standardization.
Scale and standardization.
Right. APIs are fundamentally proprietary endpoints. The JSON payload required to create a sales order in Dynamics 365 looks completely different from the payload required by NetSuite.
Which looks totally different from SAP Cloud.
Exactly. So if Walmart decided to abandon EDI and transition to APIs, they wouldn't just be adopting API technology.
What would they be doing?
They would be taking on the maintenance of tens of thousands of highly customized proprietary integrations.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, they would have to build one specific connector for your NetSuite API, then another for your competitor's Acumatica API, and another for a mom-and-pop supplier's custom endpoint.
It would be an unmanageable matrix of point-to-point connections.
A total nightmare.
They would be spending billions just maintaining the varying authentication protocols and schema changes of every single supplier in the world.
Exactly. Walmart, Target, Home Depot, they do not want to learn how to speak your specific language.
They demand a universal, standardized format.
That is what EDI provides. Whether it is X12 in North America or Edifact in Europe, it is a highly structured, legally binding syntax.
It's a universal language.
It's a language that has been battle-tested over decades to handle incredibly complex, nuanced supply chain realities.
Let's pause on that because I think people really underestimate the complexity of those realities.
They really do.
They think of a purchase order as just, a list of items and prices.
It's a simple shopping cart.
Right. But a real-world 850 is dealing with multi-stop logistics, dynamic tax allowances, and carrier routing instructions. A standard REST API payload just isn't natively built to enforce the strict positional and conditional logic required by a retail giant.
Precisely. The rigid structure of an X12 document ensures that there is zero ambiguity. So the large retailers, they dictate the terms.
They hold all the cards.
They say, here is our implementation guide. Here are the exact segments and elements we require. Comply with this standard, or we will delist your products.
Wow. So therefore, the architectural shift we're seeing isn't the death of EDI.
Not at all.
It is the evolution of EDI into a highly sophisticated orchestration hub.
That is exactly what's happening.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that orchestration hub. Because if I'm trying to visualize the data flow, the analogy that comes to mind isn't just a basic translator.
What is it?
It's like a live interpreter at the United Nations.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Your cloud ERP is a foreign diplomat who only speaks a highly specific proprietary dialect of JSON.
Sure.
And the retailer is a diplomat demanding rigid, legally binding X12. The cloud EDI orchestration hub sits between them. But it's not just using a dictionary to swap words.
It's doing more than that.
Right. It has to understand the cultural context.
Yeah.
Like when the ERP outputs a standard box in JSON, the EDI hub knows that for this specific retailer, box must be formatted as a 40 by 48-inch wooden skid with a serialized SSCC18 barcode label.
It fills in all those cultural gaps automatically.
Exactly.
That is a phenomenal way to conceptualize the mechanics. The Cloud EDI platform, the Orchestration Hub, operates at the edge of your network.
Okay.
Let's trace an inbound transaction. Walmart transmits an X12 850 over AS2.
Right, coming into the network.
Well, Orchestration Hub receives that raw EDI payload. It doesn't just pass it along. It intercepts, unpacks, and validates the X12 syntax.
Checking the structure.
Right. It checks the ISA envelope. It ensures all the mandatory segments are actually present.
And what if the ERP requires data that Walmart didn't send? Say, NetSuite demands a specific internal customer ID for the payload to be accepted, but Walmart obviously doesn't know your internal database keys.
That is where the orchestration logic takes over. The hub performs dynamic data enrichment.
Data enrichment.
Yes. It intercepts the X12, queries its own cross-reference tables, injects your specific NetSuite customer ID into the data stream, and then transforms the entire package into the exact JSON schema that your ERP's API expects.
Wow.
And then it authenticates via OAuth 2.0 and executes the POS request to your cloud ERP seamlessly.
Which means, returning to our main premise, you cannot successfully migrate your ERP to the cloud if you leave your EDI chain to an on-premise server.
It's impossible.
You cannot have a highly advanced API-driven brain trying to communicate with the outside world through like a 1995 dial-up modem.
It creates a massive architectural bottleneck. When you transition the core ERP, you must simultaneously transition the translation layer.
It's non-negotiable.
Absolutely. You need a modern scalable tool engineered specifically for this API to EDI orchestration.
Which brings us directly to the solution outlined in the GraceBlood architecture notes, making the simultaneous switch to a managed cloud EDI service like VelociLink.
Right. It's a total paradigm shift. Let's look at the baseline economics of the legacy model for a second.
Okay, let's talk money.
Running on-premise EDI is a heavily capital-intensive operation. You are purchasing the physical servers,
Which depreciate instantly.
right. You are buying expensive perpetual software licenses. You are paying annual maintenance fees. But the hidden and far more damaging cost is the human capital.
You essentially have to run a shadow IT firm inside your supply chain department.
You really do. You have senior developers whose entire job function is babysitting servers,
Attaching operating systems,
untangling broken maps, managing exception handling. It's a drain.
a huge drain.
But moving to a platform like VelociLink completely inverts that model. The infrastructure is hosted, the software updates are managed seamlessly in the background, and the day-to-day map maintenance is handled entirely by the provider.
So you're freeing up your internal team, but the financial shift is only half the equation here.
Very true.
I am looking at my notes here. And I really want to talk about the most agonizing operational bottleneck in the entire industry.
Onboarding.
Yes, onboarding a new trading partner. In the legacy world, if the sales team lands a massive new account, say Home Depot, the celebration on the sales floor is immediately followed by absolute panic in the IT department.
Total panic, because the IT team knows that integrating Home Depot is going to take months of manual, highly complex mapping.
Months. Right. They have to pull down the massive PDF implementation guide from Home Depot.
Hundreds of pages long.
Oh, easily. And then they have to manually write custom SQL queries to figure out how to extract the exact data needed from the ERP database.
They have to build the logic completely from scratch.
Run endless UAT testing and just pray they don't miss a mandatory segment.
And while they're doing all that, the backlog grows.
Revenue's delayed, and occasionally, you actually lose the contract because you can't hit the retailer's compliance timeline.
It happens more than people think.
Why do I need a separate analytics layer in the EDI hub?
It's a very common question. The reason is that the ERP analytics only show you what has successfully crossed the perimeter.
Ah,
The ERP dashboard shows you the orders that have been successfully created. It does not show you the transaction lifecycle at the edge of the network.
okay. Give me a concrete scenario where ERP analytics fail, but EDI analytics catch the problem.
Okay, let's say a major supplier starts transmitting ASNs, but they're consistently formatting the tracking numbers incorrectly.
So they're violating the X12 syntax.
Right. The orchestration hub rejects those transactions before they ever reach your ERP.
Oh, I see.
So if you were only looking at your NetSuite dashboards, everything looks fine. The data just isn't there.
You don't know there's a problem until the truck literally arrives at the dock unannounced, causing a massive logistical jam.
Exactly. But with EDI analytics, I have visibility into the perimeter traffic.
You can see the rejections.
Yes. You can analyze real-time transaction trends. You can monitor the 997 turnaround times to identify latency in your partner's network.
Wow.
You can spot the syntax errors and identify which specific trading partners have the highest failure rates before the physical supply chain is disrupted.
It elevates EDI from a tactical kind of black box translator into a strategic, data-driven command center.
Command center is a great way to put it.
It gives you the power to anticipate bottlenecks rather than just reacting to chargebacks,
Right.
which is, incredible for scaling operations.
Absolutely essential for scaling.
But rapid scale, especially in a cloud environment, introduces massive risk.
It does.
You cannot run a high-velocity supply chain if the underlying architecture isn't bulletproof. Which brings us to the final and perhaps most critical segment of this discussion.
Yeah.
Security, compliance, and maintaining agility under pressure.
The security landscape has evolved to a point where Maintaining legacy on-premise infrastructure is practically corporate negligence.
Corporate negligence. That's a strong phrase.
I mean it. A server sitting in an office closet running outdated mapping software on a deprecated Windows OS is a catastrophic vulnerability waiting to happen.
It's a ticking time bomb.
Right. Modern cloud EDI natively handles security with a level of rigor that would cost an enterprise millions of dollars to replicate internally.
Let's detail that rigor because cloud security can sometimes feel like a buzzword. We are talking about highly sensitive, mission-critical transaction data here.
Very true.
What does the actual physical and digital security architecture look like for a platform like Velocily?
Well, physically, it relies on highly resilient, geographically dispersed data centers.
So no single point of failure.
Exactly. We aren't talking about a single point of failure. It is an active failover architecture.
What does active mean in plain English?
It means if a massive regional outage takes down a server farm on the East Coast, the transaction load is seamlessly and instantaneously routed to a secondary location without a single dropped packet.
So the EDI flow literally never stops.
Never stops.
And digitally. How is the data protected in transit between the orchestration hub, the ERP API, and the external trading partners?
Everything utilizes end-to-end encryption. We're talking about TLS 1.3 for data in transit and AES 256 encryption for data at rest.
The highest standards.
Right. Access to the portals is locked down via strict multi-factor authentication and role-based access control. But the true benchmark of security in this space is adherence to strict system and organization controls.
You mean SOC compliance?
Yes, SOC compliance.
I really want to highlight SOC compliance because IT directors listening know that passing an SOC 2 Type 2 audit is an agonizing, incredibly demanding process.
It is brutal.
It verifies that the provider isn't just claimed to be secure, but has the audited, verified operational frameworks in place to manage sensitive data securely over a sustained period of time.
And by utilizing a SOC-compliant managed service, you inherit that level of security posture without having to build the framework yourself.
It removes a massive compliance burden from your internal IT team.
Huge burden lifted.
But compliance isn't just about security audits. It's about operational adaptability.
Right.
Because the supply chain is constantly shifting.
Yeah.
Let's look at the mechanics of change management. Imagine you are a food and beverage distributor.
Okay.
A massive retailer updates their traceability requirements. They announce that, effective in 30 days, they require a brand new lot code segment and a best by date injected into the 856 ASN.
That happens all the time.
If you miss this update, they will reject the shipment and issue a massive penalty. How does that scenario play out in the old on-premise world?
In the legacy world, it is a manual, high-risk scramble. Your team receives the updated PDF specification. An engineer has to manually parse the new requirements, go back into the ERP database.
And write a new SQL query.
Exactly. Write a new SQL query to extract the lot code. And best by date, manually rewrite the EDI map to include the new segment, compile it, run it through UAT testing with the retailer, and finally deploy it to production.
And if the engineer misses the email, or if the SQL query fails in production,
You start hemorrhaging cash. The non-compliance chargebacks pile up automatically before the IT team even realizes the map is failing.
Now compare that to the managed cloud EDI environment. How does the orchestration hub handle that exact same traceability update?
The burden of map maintenance shifts entirely to the provider. The cloud network monitors the industry mandates.
So they're watching for the changes.
Right. When the retailer pushes an update to their specification, the provider updates the standardized template across the entire network.
Automatically.
The compliance update is automated. The mapping adjustments are handled centrally, drastically reducing the risk of your transactions failing due to outdated formatting.
It provides total operational agility.
Total peace of mind.
And that agility extends to the human element of the supply chain too. Because the entire architecture is cloud-based, you aren't tethered to a local network to manage exceptions.
That's a huge point. Mobility.
Right. If a logistics manager is standing on a floor of a distribution center in Ohio, and they need to track down why a specific pallet was rejected by a 3PL, they don't have to call IT.
They can simply open a tablet, log into the secure web portal, view the exact transaction lifecycle in the EDI analytics dashboard, identify the missing data element, and resolve the exception right there on the warehouse floor.
It provides total accessibility and resilience against disruptions. It completely decentralizes the problem-solving capability.
It empowers the people actually doing the work.
And that brings us to the ultimate strategic question for leadership teams evaluating this transition. When you migrate your ERP to the cloud, you are not just updating software.
No, you're not.
You are laying down the foundational architecture for the next decade of your business. If you cripple that new foundation by attaching it to legacy on-premise tools, you are sabotaging your own growth. Let's pull all of this together and recap the core architectural journey for everyone listening. The fundamental takeaway is this. Moving your ERP to powerful multi-tenant cloud systems like NetSuite or Acumatica is a necessary evolution.
But it comes with a cost.
Right. It will instantly sever the direct database connections that your legacy EDI systems rely on. That undocumented 2011 script running in the closet will not survive the migration.
And when that connection is severed, you cannot fall back on the myth that your external trading partners will simply adopt your internal APIs.
They won't do it.
The global supply chain demands the universal, rigid structure of X12 and Edifact.
Therefore, you must migrate to a modern cloud EDI orchestration hub. You need a platform to translate your ERP's highly customized JSON API payloads into the exact, legally binding EDI formats required by Walmart, Target, and your 3PLs.
Exactly. You need a platform that bypasses months of manual mapping.
Secures your data with SOC-compliant architecture.
And provides perimeter analytics so you can anticipate bottlenecks before they trigger chargebacks.
If you are currently evaluating a cloud ERP migration, or if you are in the middle of deployment and realizing your EDI strategy is an afterthought, the time to address this architecture is right now. Do not wait for the legacy connections to fail.
Absolutely. The technical debt will crush your launch. We highly recommend you reach out and schedule an architecture consultation with the experts here at GraceBlood.
Let our engineers audit your legacy maps, map out your cloud data flows, and ensure both your ERP and your EDI systems transition together flawlessly. We can help you maximize your ROI and keep your supply chain running at peak velocity.
We have dissected the current state of cloud orchestration today, but looking at the trajectory of this technology, it raises a fascinating question about where the edge of the network goes next.
I am so glad you brought that up because I have a thought on the horizon of this technology that I want to leave the listener to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We've established that cloud EDI is no longer just a dumb translator. Could we see a future where the EDI ecosystem becomes entirely self-healing? Imagine a scenario where Target changes a compliance rule on a Thursday night. Instead of an engineer updating a template, the AI intercepts the updated specification, automatically writes the new mapping logic, runs a simulated UAT test against historical ERP payloads, and deploys the update to production.
Preventing a massive chargeback before a single human being even realizes the requirement changed.
Exactly. We are moving toward a world where the integration layer doesn't just pass data, it actively defends the supply chain. It's a staggering capability to consider the next time you review your IT roadmap.
It fundamentally changes the definition of what an integration platform is capable of achieving.
It absolutely does. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this incredibly deep look into cloud architecture on EDI in the street. On behalf of the entire GraceBlood team, keep your architecture clean, keep your supply chain moving, and we will catch you next time.
Maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity.